Hey everyone, Tim Strifler here with Divi Life, and I am super excited to be back with another Divember live stream. Now, if you are new to Divember or to Divi Life, Divember is Divi plus November. It's a little word mashup, and Divember is the month-long campaign that we're doing all November long. And Divember, we're doing Divi tutorials. We're giving away Divi freebies. We are releasing new features to some of our popular Divi products. And then most exciting of all, we have a bunch of super epic, exciting new Divi products that we're going to be unveiling as part of the Divember series. So definitely stay tuned and subscribe to our email list, subscribe to us on Facebook and YouTube. That way you can not miss out on any of the Divember fun that is happening here at Divi Life. Now, if you are watching this live, so you're watching the live stream right now, either on Facebook or YouTube, do me a favor and just write live in the comments. That way I know you're watching live, and then say where you're coming from. So say live and Paris, France, live and San Clemente, California. So I know where in the world geographically you're tuning in from. And then if you're watching the replay, so you're watching this later, whether on the Divi Life blog, whether on YouTube, whether on Facebook, just write replay and then where you're tuning in from geographically in the world. So that helps us to know who's watching live versus the replay for tracking purposes. And then also it helps us to know, just for fun actually, where everyone is tuning in from around the world. So again, this is part of our Divember series. So if you're just now jumping on, Divember is Divi plus November, and it is the month-long series that we're doing here at Divi Life. We are doing a bunch of Divi tutorials. We're also giving away Divi freebies, so definitely check out the previous freebie that we launched last week. And then we're doing new releases to some of our existing Divi products, and then we're unveiling some super awesome new Divi products that we've been working on for some of them over a year even. So we are super excited about that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's tutorial. Today's tutorial is all about cache. So we were talking all about how to clear your caches on your Divi and WordPress website. So if you've been using Divi and WordPress for some time, you've probably heard the phrase clear your cache. And it's something that gets said pretty often if you're on any type of help forum or help Facebook group and someone's saying, hey, this isn't working. A lot of times the first thing that people recommend is clearing your cache. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and what that looks like and how to do it, because there's actually a lot more than just one cache with WordPress websites these days. And so that's where a lot of the confusion lies, is people say, well, I did clear my cache. Well, you did clear one of them, but you didn't clear all of them. And so we're going to talk about that. So really quick though, if you are watching this and you're not already on the Divi Life email list, go ahead and click this button to subscribe to our email list to then be a part of the Divember campaign and get access to all the Divi tutorials, all the Divi freebies, and then just be a part of the fun that we're doing here all month long for Divember. So you can go ahead and click that button and subscribe, and you can always unsubscribe later. So clearing your cache. So a lot of times people say clear your cache, but really what they should be saying is make sure you clear all your caches. And the reason for that, as I mentioned, is there's not just one cache these days. Now, before we dive into how many caches there are and how to clear them, let's talk a little bit about what a website cache is. Now, if you've been using WordPress for a while, then this is probably going to seem very elementary, but I'm going to cover it quickly just in case there's anyone watching that is a little more on the beginner level and doesn't really understand what cache is and how it works. So basically, a cached page is kind of like a copy or a picture of a page that is stored in order to serve that to the user more quickly. And there's a reason why you do that. And the main reason is with WordPress websites, the way that WordPress works is it stores the content in the MySQL database. And every time a new user comes to the website, or any user, not just new, comes to the website and loads a page, WordPress goes and says, hey, I'm going to go and grab the most recent version of the content, the post content. So it goes to the database, make sure it grabs the most recent, and then brings it back. They call that the WordPress loop. If you're a developer, you know if have posts have post, the post, or something like that. That's like the function names, how it reads if you read it just the words. If there's any post, go get the post. Here's the post. And that's essentially what's happening. And so that's very time consuming. That happens every time you load a page because everything in WordPress is a post, right? So a blog post is a post and has to go to the database. A page is a post. A custom post type is a post. Your navigation menu is actually a post. And so everything's a post. And so there's a lot of database storage going on and a lot of WordPress loopage happening. I just made up a new phrase there. And so the reason why you do a cache is for that right there, because then what happens is the cache will then take a static version of that page, so not a dynamic version, a static version, a picture of that page, so to speak. That's not actually a picture, but it's a copy of the page, and then it's going to store that. So when the user comes and lands on the page, it's going to serve that to the user because it's way quicker to serve them that static copy than it is to go to the database and bring it back. And so that, in a nutshell, is how caching works. A very simplified explanation. Now, there's other things that get cached too, like images and files and CSS, JavaScript files and things like that. And so it's not just a database content, but that's kind of the best way to explain it. Is it's a static version of those things. And so the bottom line, caching is good. It speeds up your load time. You want to cache, absolutely. You want to cache as much as you can. In different types of cache too, because they don't all do the same exact thing. So we're not going to get into the super nitty gritty technical details of all the different types of caches and stuff because it's very technical. But what we are going to talk about is the different caches that you need to clear and the different areas of your site you need to go to make sure the cache is cleared. And so before we do that, though, let's talk about when you need to actually clear your caches. And so to be clear, you don't need to every day go up and clear your cache. That's going to happen automatically. There's cache expiration times, and it's going to go and empty the cache after a certain amount of time automatically. Or if you go and you update a page or a post, then typically what's going to happen is WordPress or the plugin or whatever method of caching is being used will automatically rebuild the cache with that new version. And so you don't need to go and every once in a while go and clear your cache because you don't want it to be showing old content. It's going to handle that automatically. You don't need to worry about that. However, if you're troubleshooting and all of a sudden something doesn't look right on the front end, typically the best first place to start is clearing your cache, and not just one cache, all the caches across the board. And so that's usually the best place to start. And that's usually what any support company, whether it's for plugin support, theme support, hosting support, they're going to usually recommend that or do it for you to test. So another time to do that is if you do any type of software update. So you're updating WordPress, or you're updating your plugins, your theme, whatever. You want to go and make sure that the cache gets cleared. So as I mentioned, WordPress will automatically empty the cache and rebuild it when you update the page. However, most of them don't do that, to my knowledge, when you do software updates. And so, for example, just yesterday, we did a big release to our Divi pop-up plugin, Divi Overlays. And if you watched that video or read the post, you know that I said, make sure you clear all your caches. And that's because we launched a bunch of new features and some older files were removed, and we needed to make sure that those older files weren't being referenced in any of the caches. You just want to clear all the caches to make sure nothing is being cached that is old and so forth. So that's super important. And then another time that you want to clear your cache is if you're making any content or design changes. So you might be editing some custom CSS that's not necessarily stored in the page, so it's not going to automatically go and clear that cache for you. And so say, for example, you're updating the style.css via FTP. Well, you're going to probably need to clear that cache afterwards because it's not going to do it for you automatically. And then one thing I do want to say that is really important is typically if you are building a site or you're doing any type of major updates or anything like that, it's best to disable the cache. If it's not a live site that's getting a lot of traffic or anything like that. So if you're in the building design phase of a project, just disable all the caches. You'll save yourself a lot of headache trying to make sure that you're seeing the most recent version. So just disable everything. And so that's typically recommended. So moving on here, how many different caches need to be clear? Now, there isn't a magic number. Every website's different depending on if you have a caching plugin, if you don't, if you have hosting that has server level caching, if you don't, that sort of thing, if you're using a CDN or if you're not. So a lot of different things here. So for example, the first place to start, and the reason why we're doing this first is because this is Divi blog, Divi Life. And so we're going to start with the Divi cache. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then a cache plugin. So if you're using something like WP Rocket, W3 Total Cache, if you have server level caching with your host, so for example, WP Engine, Flywheel, or if you're using a CDN Cloudflare, that's another cache you're going to need to clear. And then lastly is browser cache, and that one's actually really important. We're going to talk about that. So first things first, how to clear the Divi cache. Now, I got a demo website open here, so I'm going to go ahead and show this to you. And so what you should be seeing now is the Divi theme options that we're all familiar with. And so just in case you're not, you get there from the main Divi menu. It's the top menu, theme options. And then from there, you go to the Builder tab. And then you go to the Advanced tab. And then you'll see something called Static CSS File Generation. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is enabled by default. So chances are it's on your websites unless you went and turned it off. And so you'll see it just looking just like this. So what you're going to want to do if you want to clear the Divi cache is hit clear. That's all you have to do. So the reason this happens is when you're customizing stuff in the page builder, Divi is making changes to the CSS. And so what they do is static CSS file generation. They'll take all that CSS and put it into one file that's static, and they'll cache it. And then when you go and make changes, it'll go and it'll clear it. So it helps with load time. It doesn't make a huge difference if you are doing all these other types of caches. And so it kind of just depends on what type of optimizations you've already done. But it can definitely make a difference if you have no other optimizations in place. So clearing that cache is an important step there. And so that's the first one we're covering here, is how to clear the Divi cache. Now, the Divi cache is very aggressive. And so, for example, with some of our plugins here at Divi Life, Divi Overlays, Divi Bars, Divi Mega Pro, one of the troubleshooting steps that we first tell customers is go clear your Divi cache, because it's very aggressive and it'll automatically clear with pages, but it doesn't always clear with custom post types in the way that our plugins use them. And so that's the first step, is like go clear that Divi cache if what you're seeing on the front end doesn't match the back end and what you're designing in your pop-up or mega menu, whatever it may be. And so so that's an important step, is clearing that Divi cache. So moving on here, the next most popular type of cache is a WordPress cache. So for example, if you are using a plugin such as WP Rocket, that is the most popular premium WordPress cache solution. It's what we use here at Divi Life. And the reason why we chose WP Rocket is not only is it really popular and well supported, but it also is the only cache plugin that hosting companies like WP Engine and Flywheel allow on their server, because it doesn't interfere with their server level caching, which we're going to talk about. And so so that's why we use WP Rocket. We love it. It's great. And so we're not going to go through each type of WordPress cache plugin and show you how to clear it, because generally they're all the same. And we have a picture here, and you can, if you're looking at my screen here, I'm just going to show you the drop down. Here at Divi Life, we use WP Rocket. It puts a drop down in the admin bar here. All you do is click that clear cache button. That's all you do. Super simple. Every single cache plugin that I've ever used on WordPress does the same thing. They have an admin bar menu, and you can go and hover and click clear cache. If not, then they'll have settings somewhere in the WordPress admin to clear the cache. So super simple, easy to do. Again, if you're on a page, you update the page, they will clear the cache for that page after you update. But if you need to kind of do just a general purge of the cache, that's how you do it. Super, super simple. So moving on here to the server level cache, there's another type of cache. Now, not every website has server level cache. It depends on where your website is hosted. Now, there are an infinite number of hosting companies out there all across the world. So obviously we're not going to go through all of them and specify whether or not they have server level caching. But what we will do is cover a couple of the most popular WordPress hosts, specifically WordPress hosts that we see our customers here at Divi Life using. And these are also companies, because of that we have accounts with, so that we can test, and we have demo sites and testing sites and stuff. And so the first one is Siteground. Siteground's a great host, and they're very solid, and they're one of Divi's recommended hosting companies. And so it's very, very simple to clear the Siteground cache. It's simple, however, it can be hard to find. And so that's why we're going to go ahead and show you how to do it here. So I got it open already here. This is the Siteground cPanel. And super simple. So actually, I'm going to go back to my screenshot here. So what you do is the first thing is you scroll down to WordPress tools. I'm just going to zoom all the way in, make sure you can see that. And then under WordPress tools is Super Cacher. And so you're just going to click on Super Cacher, and then it's going to take you to this page that you see here. And so here's some of our demo sites listed. And all you have to do is come over here and click Flush Cache, just like that. And we just flushed the cache from one of the sites. So very, very simple. And then you see these switches here. That's where you can turn on and off the cache. And so for some of our testing sites where we're testing new versions of our plugins, we just leave that cache off. We don't want to mess with it. These are our demo sites for some of our child themes here at Divi Life. And so we leave the cache on because we want them loading as quickly as possible for customers that are checking out the demo. And so, and we're not actively developing and changing things. But that's how, again, if you're in that design build phase, you're going to want to just turn it off and come back. But you don't want to forget to come back and turn it on, because it will make a difference. So that's how you clear the cache using Siteground, which has cPanel. Now, the next server level cache we're going to show you how to clear is Flywheel. Flywheel is great. We've been using them for a couple of years now. We have some of our plugin demos, like for example, DiviMegaPro.com is on Flywheel. Our Divi Overlays demo, DiviPopup.com, also on Flywheel. And so Flywheel has a custom control panel or customer portal, whatever you want to call it. And it's really well designed. It looks great, as you can see here. And so it's super, super easy to flush the cache. All you do is select the site from the Sites menu. And then once you have that, come on over here to the Advanced tab. And then once you're on the Advanced tab, all you do is click Flush Cache. See if I can go ahead and do it there. It just takes a second or a few seconds, maybe as many as 20 seconds, and it will completely flush that cache for you. And so their cache is pretty aggressive, and so you definitely will need to flush it every once in a while when you're in that kind of development mode. To my knowledge, there's no way to turn it off, as well as on their staging. And so it can be a little bit irritating having to clear the cache a bunch when you're developing. But yeah, so that's it. So so that is Flywheel. And then the last one we're going to show you here step by step is WP Engine. Now, WP Engine actually has it built into WP Admin, which is really nice. So at the top, above dashboard on your WP Admin menu is WP Engine. And if you just click on that, you'll see a Purge All Caches button. You click that, you're done. It's super, super simple. You don't have to go and log into the portal, which is nice. However, if you do log into the portal, this is what it looks like here. And you just go over to Utilities and click Clear Cache. So super simple. That's how you do it. But again, typically we just recommend doing that from the from your WordPress admin area of the site you're trying to clear the cache, because it just saves a step. So very, very simple. But again, you can do it through their portal if you're already logged in there as well. So kind of review here. We're talking about all the different types of caches that you can clear, and the Divi cache being kind of the forgotten one that people don't realize exists. The WordPress cache plugin being the most popular method of caching that people use. So that's definitely a good place to start. And then also, if you have a server level cache, you're going to want to clear that at different times if necessary, as we mentioned, during troubleshooting or after updates and stuff like that. And then, of course, we showed you how to do it from Siteground, Flywheel, and WP Engine. Now, there's another type of cache that you may or may not be using, and that is Cloudflare. Now, we use Cloudflare on all of our sites. Cloudflare is a form of a CDN, a content delivery network, but they're kind of a lot more than that. They're kind of in their own lane because they're not a true CDN, but they have CDN benefits. They're not like they're like security and speed and DNS all wrapped into one. And so we love Cloudflare and we use it often, but they do have cache. And so there are times when something's not showing and then you have to go clear the Cloudflare cache, and that clears it up. And you're now getting that last bit of changes that you just made to your site that wasn't showing through. And so it's super simple to do so. All you have to do here is click on the caching menu item once you've selected the site, and then click on the configuration tab, and then click purge everything. That's all you do. Very, very simple. That one you typically don't need to do. Usually clearing the other caches will do the trick when you're waiting to see changes that you've made to your site, but we wanted to put it on there in case you're a Cloudflare user like we are, that you won't forget about it. So that's it for the different types of caches. One other cache though, it kind of belongs in this. It's different, but it definitely is part of this conversation, and that is browser cache. You may not know this, but your browser actually caches web pages and different files and stuff like that. And so, for example, you might have noticed that when you go to a new website, it might take a couple seconds, and then the next time you visit it, it's like lightning fast. And the reason why is it's cached in your browser, and your browser will hold on to that cached copy for a certain amount of time before it goes and fetches a new copy when the next time you go and visit the site. And so if you're not seeing changes on your site and you're like making design development changes, you might need to clear your browser cache. And so depending on what browser you're using, it's going to be a little bit different. But for example, right now I'm in Safari. I use Safari and Chrome kind of half and half, and then I use Firefox for testing certain things. But for Safari, you can do a hard refresh. That's another way of saying clearing the browser cache, is doing a hard reset or a hard refresh. And so if you click on View, you can go reload from origin and select that. Or I'm sorry, it's going to say reload page, but if you hold the option key, this is Safari on Mac, then it'll change to reload from origin, and then that will go and fetch a new copy from the server. And then Chrome has the same thing. Basically, the shortcut for that is Shift Command R, or I think it's Control R with Windows, and then Shift Command R on Mac for Chrome. But you can also do kind of what I just showed you with Safari. I'm not sure if it's View or what, but I think you hold the Shift key and it changes from refresh page to hard refresh or refresh from origin. So one of those. So that's how you do it. You can just Google how to do a browser cache refresh. And I think we're going to actually add a link here. I meant to add it to this post of an article that'll show you how to do it in every browser. So depending on what you're using. And so yeah, browser cache is often forgotten. And you may not realize this, but people will say, oh, Google fonts, take a long time to load because they're loading from the Google font CDN and everything. And so you should have all your fonts locally. But what people don't realize is Google fonts are so widely used. They're so popular, especially the really popular fonts within the Google font library, is that most people have those fonts cached in their browser. And so it actually doesn't add any load time. So just a little fun fact for you. If you're using something like Open Sans, you don't have to worry about it slowing down because chances are your users have that cached in their browser because it's the same file from the same Google Font CDN library. So it doesn't matter if they've been to your website before or not, that file will be cached. So that is it for this tutorial. Hopefully you found this helpful. We see this question a lot, and we actually, as I mentioned yesterday, launched a new version to our pop-up plugin Divi overlays with a bunch of new features. And so one of the things that we really stressed for everyone is after you update, clear your cache, all the caches. And then we had some people ask us, how do you do that? And so we're like, well, let's do a tutorial on it for Divember, because it's something that'll definitely be useful for anyone that's using Divi and WordPress. So if you like this post and you want to subscribe to the Divember campaign, as a reminder, Divember is our month-long campaign that we're doing, or series, I guess you can call it, all November long, where we're pumping out Divi tutorials. We're releasing Divi freebies. We're launching new features to our existing Divi products, as well as some soon to come. We haven't unveiled any yet, but we're going to be unveiling some really epic new Divi products that we've been working on for a while. And so if you subscribe here from this button, you'll make sure that you get notified when we add new content and freebies and all that good stuff to the Divember series. So hopefully you found this helpful, clearing all the caches, not just one cache, clearing everything. And so, yeah, let us know in the comments if there's anything that we missed, or if you have any questions or anything like that. Let us know in the comments. You can subscribe to us on Facebook and YouTube. So when we do this live stream, you can get a little notification from Facebook and or YouTube that we're actually live, so you can come on and watch it as it's happening. So again, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.